how does machine learning assist with creativity in this hidden door platform? How does it allow your AI dungeon master to create new adventures every time?
So I'm actually going to take a step back in answering that question and talk a little bit about what the goal of the experience is, because I don't know that everybody here is a big tabletop RPG fan. So actually, let me ask, for those of you who are here in the audience, how many of you have played tabletop RPGs such as Dungeons and Dragons? We have a handful of folks.
Yeah, we've got probably a third of hands went up.
Yeah, and of the folks who have not played, how many of you are familiar with the idea of what it is? So we've got, okay, pretty much everyone else, but I'm just going to say, for those of you who are not familiar with the idea, you sit around a table, whether it's real or virtual, with your friends and tell a story in a world where you have a character, you make decisions for that character, and then another player, who's usually called the game master, the game guide, sort of mediates, enforces the rules, applies the laws of physics, and tells you what happens next and sets up the story arc for you. So we're trying to create this kind of experience, but in any world, whether it is, the Bridgerton world, or whether it's like a, unnamed wizard boy having wizard boy adventures world, right? Whatever it is that you happen to be in love with, or it's the classic fantasy setting. And so when we think about what that experience is, it is one of being able to take a story world, that world building, to take the set of tropes, to distinguish what makes that world unique from those tropes, and then to express it in a way that is consistent, and that gives you the room to tell your own story within it.
Wow.
And so that's the sort of experience we're trying to create. And it's one that currently you can really only have by playing with a person who plays the role of the storyteller.
Right.
And every group is different. But this sort of experience is one where it's a social experience. So you end up telling a story you could not tell alone. And you couldn't tell without your particular set of friends and your particular, game leader. So back to the technology. So when we think about the technology to make this possible, it is only in the last few years that we have been able to use large language models in a way to facilitate this sort of storytelling, though we are probably not using them in the way you might think, because that would lead to bad things or problems. But when you think about what those systems are able to provide conceptually, they are able to essentially encode the patterns of a large amount of communication. So essentially, they're trope machines.
Right.
And when you apply them to, say, a classic fantasy genre or classic science fiction genre, you can start to pull out the tropes that distinguish that genre and that subgenre. We've done actually a ton of cool data visualization of the subgenres and how they relate through language use and trope overlap to try and understand these things. So we are using a extremely pragmatic mix of emergent language model techniques, a bunch of procedural techniques, a bunch of classic NLP techniques, all architected around creating a controllable and safe experience. We also have a simulation and a game engine inside our system, which means that you get things that you think are reasonable. It has memory. You have like a character sheet and statistics behind the scenes as well, even if everything is expressed in language. So said another way, the core problem we're solving is one of taking unstructured language of a novel or a story, structuring it, mediating it through a simulation or a game engine, and then using that structured representation to generate both text and art dynamically.
Wow, the art as well.
The art as well. So as you play, it comes to life as a graphic novel that is created based on what you and your friends choose to do.